Welcome to the Divine Feminine Podcast, where I am your host, Priestess Haneera Abunu. Welcome to the safe space. In today's podcast, I'm going to go over who I am, how my journey started, and why I'm qualified to tell you the things I'm going to tell you on future podcasts, right? So how did my journey start? I get that question all the time from people. They call me, text message me, they're on my social media. Priestess, help me. I feel like I'm being called. And how did you get your start? How did you find where you are? And how did you know this was the direction you were supposed to take? And so because that seems to be where people start with me, where they have most of their questions, I thought it would be most appropriate to start there, right? Just an introduction about who I am. And how I gained the knowledge that I gained, the wisdom, where did I learn my teachings, and how did I start? What was my road to initiation? So that's what this podcast is about, just to introduce myself. Yay. So I started my first initiation in California, in the United States. And that was done with an organization called the Earth Center. Shout out to the Earth Center. Prophet Nebnabala Musa Moradedabig and his son who's taken over the reins, Naba Irita. And I initiated there. They have a school with that teaches Kemetic knowledge and philosophy. And so I initiated there. That was my first initiation. It was a Kemetic initiation. Very helpful and useful. That particular school gave me the fundamentals of what I needed for spirituality. The school itself, the education, the teaching, the regiment, the discipline, the humility, all of those things that are needed to be a good initiate, I was taught there at the temple in San Diego. And I was so hard-headed. Let me just say that. So normally the initiation process doesn't take as long as mine took. Okay. So my initiation took 4 years. And normally, it takes about a year to a year and a half, right? There's a course of study, and then your energy is checked, and, it's like, okay, is she clean enough? Is the generation clean enough to move forward, to hold this sacred name? And let me just say, I was so dirty when I started this process. So my initiation took 4 years. Right? And some people would say, aren't you ashamed of that? Aren't you ashamed? No, I'm not. I'm really not. And let me tell you why. Okay. I'm not ashamed of it because I was raised in America. I'm a child of America. And we have a lot of dirtiness here. We have a lot of corruption here. And I was honest in trying to clean myself and trying to seek knowledge and enlightenment. And so I submitted myself to this higher learning, to this and I said, they will tell me when I'm clean enough to move forward. And so I wasn't clean enough to move forward and to hold the sacred Kemetic name and to graduate from this level until 4 years had passed. And looking back now, knowing all that I know now in the space, that I'm in today, I am thankful that I didn't graduate a day before when I did, because I was dirty. You know, there were things that I did, ways I was raised, my brain, just the way I functioned, just the way I looked at life. I wasn't ready. So I say all that to say that I that's where I started. I started at the Earth Center, and I graduated and got my Kemetic name. And it was 1 year after my graduation. 1 year after my graduation, I had been continuing my studies in my regular, say, colonial life. I was a business owner. So I had a successful business that was thriving. We had just gotten a brick and mortar location, and things were working for me. You know, the energies, the portals were open. I was using the tools of the initiation that I had learned, and doing my spiritual practices, my meditations, feeding my ancestors, giving reverence to my ancestors, pouring libations. I'm doing all of these things that I knew to do at that particular level. And it was working. It was working. Everything was well. Life was good. It was in session. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go. I want to go to Africa. The organization, right, the Earth Center, where I did my first initiation, they do an annual pilgrimage where they take all of the pilgrims, all of the spiritual seekers, people who are on an honest journey. They take them into Africa, and you visit the temples, the traditional kingships. You go into the villages where the Kemetic knowledge has been preserved since the time of the invaders, and you meet the actual families and bloodlines that have preserved this knowledge. It's a very, 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 very sacred journey, right? And I had been a part of the school for 5 years, and I hadn't taken the pilgrimage. And so I said, you know what? Things are going well. I'm going to go on pilgrimage. And pilgrimage costs money, right? You go for 2 months. You have to sustain yourself and all your living expenses home and take care of yourself abroad. So it costs money, but things were going good for me. I could afford to unplug from life for 2 months with me and 2 of my younger children and go on pilgrimage. So I went on pilgrimage that particular year. And we're there for 2 months. And I remember telling Naba, I said, Naba, I want to get all my spiritual work done. Whatever spiritual work I need to get done, I want to get it done. And so this was towards the end of pilgrimage. We're at Het Aishat, which is one of the temples in Togo, West Africa. And I'm living out of my tent, me and my kids, and it was time for me to get all my spiritual work done. This particular night was my night. I was getting all my work done. And one of the ceremonies, and I won't go into too much detail because that's sacred knowledge, but in one of my ceremonies, I remember being told I need to say what my wishes were. What do I want? I had the spirit there with me, and I could ask for anything. Ask for what you want. And I was in that space for a long period of time. And I remember chanting and saying over and over again, I want to be the highest version of myself. I want to fulfill my destiny. I want to honor my ancestors and make them proud. And I just remember saying that over and over again. I want to be a child of light. I want to be used by the divine. I want to do the work of the ancestors. I want to be a servant to my ancestors and do what needs to be done in this time and space. Use me, use me, use me. And I would say that over and over again. And that was like truly what I wanted. And so fast forward, right? So that was at the end of the pilgrimage. I got all my spiritual work done. Fast forward to me coming home. So I come home and I'm getting back into life. And immediately, I would say, because I came home in March, by May, my marriage was pretty much over. Yeah. By May, I had started having these dreams. And in the dreams, I saw me and my husband separated. In these dreams, I saw me moving forward in a different space. I also saw my husband thriving, but we weren't together. And it was because my husband had to leave California and go do his work, right? So I saw all these dreams. I also remember doing my daily spiritual work, my Zimzum meditations and things. And I remember thinking, I want to do more. I want to know more. This just isn't good enough anymore. This just isn't, I feel like I've plateaued. I want more. And so I'm having the dreams. And it got to the point to where I would wake up and go back to sleep, and I would continue in the same dream. And I'm like, wow. So after about a couple weeks of that, I wouldn't say a couple weeks, I'd say about a week. After about a week of nightly dreams like that, I was like, I need to be writing this down. And so I started writing down my dreams. I started writing down my dreams, and I remember asking for certain things to happen in my meditations. So when I would go to my altar and pray, I would ask for certain things to happen, things that I saw in my dreams, and I would start to see them manifest. And I was like, wow, okay, this is getting good. But I was like, this still isn't enough. And then I remember my grandmother, Lindsay Nellums, rest her soul. I remember she had gotten sick. She had had a stroke, and she was in the hospital, and we didn't know if she was going to make it. And I remember calling the different priests that I knew, and I was just like, I need a reading on my grandmother. I need to know if she's going to make it. I need to know if there's any spiritual work that needs to be done to help her recover. I need to know, I pouring libations, just, I wasn't satisfied with that. And I couldn't get a divination. I couldn't get straight answers. And I started getting frustrated, and I really made a decision at that point. I said, you know what? I have never, ever put myself in a position where I am at the mercy of another person to do anything. Even I've never been a consumer. I've been an entrepreneur for years, and anytime I ever, and this was, outside of spirituality, just in my colonial life, anytime I ever consumed something too much, I became a producer of it. And that's just how I live my life. If I ever consumed anything too much, I became a producer of it. So before it was cool to grow your own food, I was growing my own food. I was growing my own tomatoes, my own herbs, because I was consuming a lot of it. And I just felt like in order to control that process and that quality, I needed to produce my own product. Yeah, back in the day, you know, had a previous husband. This is going like way back, giving you guys a little knowledge about me. And that particular husband, you know, he smoked marijuana. Well, when we were consuming too much of that, we started producing it. And this was before cannabis became what it is today. But we had, you know, contracts with different dispensaries, and we were doing pretty good at it, actually. This was before I started initiation. I actually quit that industry to focus on my first initiation. And I bring that up just to say that now I found myself consuming readings. I was needing readings. I was scrambling around, going to different Baconos and Babalaos and different priests, and I was needing information and knowledge that I couldn't get for myself. And that agitated me. That agitated a part of the inside of me that just wouldn't sit still. It got to the point to where I was just angry and annoyed. And you know, anger isn't an emotion that we should have. It's very, very damaging to the human being. And at that particular moment, you know, I had certain bouts and fits of rage and anger because I could not get the information that I needed. I had become such a consumer that I couldn't provide this service for myself. And I said, you know what? I'm going to learn. I'm going to learn how to do these divinations. I'm going to go down the path of priesthood. I just have to, because I can't allow myself to be vulnerable like this anymore. I felt weak, and that's just not who I am. It's just not who my father raised me to be. It's just not in my blood. And I thought back to pilgrimage. And on pilgrimage, we had visited a temple. It was in Benin, and the temple was the Voodoo Dagbo. Dagbo, that is the high priest, the person who's over all of voodoo for the world. We had visited his temple in Aladad. And Aladad is the city right at the edge of Benin, right at the water, right by Cotonou. And Benin is situated in between Nigeria and Togo. And it's the country that is the birthplace of voodoo. Here in America, we call it voodoo, hoodoo, you know, down in Haitian countries, Haiti, they have their own version of Haitian voodoo. But the birthplace started in Benin. And on pilgrimage, one of the temples we went to was the Voodoo temple. And we visited the Dagbo. And we met his wife, his queen, Mianu. And she took us for 2 nights to her palace in Aladad, which is about, I would say, a 40-minute drive from Ouida. And we took that drive to the village, and there's no reception out there. You know, it's just green and lush, beautiful. And I remember having such a connection with her. I remember the experiences that happened there. And fast forward to now, it's the summertime, and I'm having this agitation. And I'm like, I need to move forward and get more initiation, get more training. I need to go down the path of priesthood. And I immediately thought of the Vodun temples. Now, my family comes from Louisiana. My mother's side of the family comes from Louisiana, New Orleans, Baton Rouge, all of that. Most of my family, immediate family on my mother's side, we now are in Texas because of Katrina. After Katrina, most of us moved to Galveston in Texas City. But that's where my roots are from. That's where my roots are from. And I had also did my DNA with one of these online services. And they said that I'm mainly from West Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, and Benin. And that whole Western region. I said, okay. And so growing up down south, that's all you know, is voodoo masked behind Catholicism, right? That's how I was raised. And so now that I am an adult and I'm an honest seeker looking for knowledge, it just gravitated to me. There was a pull that I had that summer that pulled me back to Benin. And I said, I have to go through more initiation, and that's where I have to go. I want her to initiate me. And so I set about that task. And I cleared all my business with the organization, the temple I was serving here that I had initiated with. I told them that I was leaving, and I didn't want to be a part of the organization anymore. And everyone's like, why? What's wrong? Like, we thought everything was great. And I'm like, no, nothing's wrong. Everything is good. Made sure all my obligations were covered. Made sure if I had any outstanding invoices, they were taken care of. Like, I did not want to leave with any type of bad blood or misunderstandings or people thinking that I was leaving for any other reason. Then I just needed growth, and I needed more, and I couldn't explain it to anyone, that there was like this pounding in my chest every day that I could not divine. I could not access the divinity in a way that I had been dreaming and saw myself accessing the divinity. Every day that it passed, it was like torture, because I wasn't doing what I knew I should be doing. It had gotten to the point to where I wasn't sleeping at night. I would journal my dreams, and then I would sleep for maybe an hour or two, and I'd have to get up and journal more of my dreams. I was starting to dream about people on the other side of the country, and I would tell them the dreams that I was having, and they would receive it and say, oh my gosh, this just happened, or this is going on in my life, or someone else told me something that was similar, and this is in alignment to two other messages that I received. And so with all of that, I knew I was moving in the right direction. And I told my husband at the time, I told him, I said, we can't be together. And he looked at me and he's like, why? And I was just like, we just can't be together. And he said about saving his marriage, you know, what do I have to do to save my marriage? I'm like, no, you don't understand. It's better for us not to be together. You know, it's better for you to not be here, for you to leave and go back home to where your family is, and to leave California. The sickness that you have will clear up once you leave. And he's just like, where are you getting this from? You know, are you putting spells on me? What are you doing? And I'm like, no, it's in my dream. I don't know how to explain it, but it's in the dream, and I love you enough, and I want the best for you. And if the best for you means us not being together, then I want you to go. And I want you to be happy, and I want you to fulfill your destiny. And we can keep in touch, but we're just not supposed to be together. And he was just like, I'm not leaving my family. Like, I love you. I love our family, and I'm not leaving you. Well, that particular summer, our son, the youngest son, he stopped up. This is a funny story. He stopped up the tub, right? So in our master bedroom, we had a shower and a spa tub. So the shower is separate from the spa tub. And so he had taken some papers and stopped up the tub and had turned the water on. Now, mind you, this could have been, gosh, it could have went so many other different ways, right? The baby could have fell in the tub and hurt himself. He could have drowned. He could have got electrocuted. Like, there's just so many things that could have happened. But it didn't. What happened was, him and I, he said, let's go. This was one night. We hadn't been doing well. He wasn't okay with us separating. And he said, let's go out. And I said, okay, we can go out. So we went. I'll never forget, we went to a comedy club in Claremont in San Diego, I think it's off of Mira Mesa Boulevard. We went there and had a drink and some appetizers, and we were driving from the comedy club, and we were driving home, and he said, well, you know, do you want to go have a drink and, you know, go to this place to have a nice nightcap and talk some more? And I was like, okay, you know, all right. I didn't want to spoil the mood. So I'm feeling tipsy, and I'm like, okay, tonight it may happen. The magic may come back. It may happen. And I remember we made a U-turn, and we were going to the after hours spot to have this drink, and we get a call. We get a call from the house, and my oldest child, which is she was in late teenage, so it had to be like 19 at the time, 19, maybe 18. She was watching the kitchen. She's like, you guys gotta get here. And I'm like, gotta get here? What's going on? And she's just like, the upstairs is flooded. And I'm like, the upstairs is flooded? What? And so we get back to the house, right? So that totally nixed the plan. So, you know, even though we tried to rekindle, it ancestors just like, nope, not today. And so we had to not do the after hours. And we came back to the house. And we get to the house, and all of upstairs is flooded. All of upstairs is flooded. And so the aftermath of the flood, they had to come in, contractors had to come in, tear up the master bedroom, tear up the bathroom suite. They had to put blowers in there. And I remember the contractor, he's like, this is what stopped up your drain. And I remember it was a spiritual magazine. And I just remember saying, I get it. I surrender. I'll stop trying to make it work. You know, because that was the sign, like, you're trying to make this marriage work. And you guys are not supposed to be together. And we had to take out our closets at that particular time. We had dual master closets. And so my ancestral shrine was in my closet. And so I had to bring it out and put it in the bedroom next to my bed. And there's no way that I'm going to have sex in a room with my shrine. Just knowing what I know about designated spaces and respecting your spiritual space, I just wasn't going to do it. And so him and I kind of looked at each other, and he's just like, so the bedroom is off. And I was like, the bedroom is off. And that was the first sign, the first time he started like realizing maybe, you know, she's gifted. Maybe she's onto something. There were other instances that happened with him getting sick. Other instances happened. Just all of these things were happening to cause us to separate and put a further wedge in between us. And the last straw that kept him from fighting for his marriage. You fast forward to later in the year, he had graduated from the same school, the Earth Center, and in his name reading, it had given a lot about his life and his destiny when he was born, the things he was set to do, his compatibilities, things like that. And it talked about his elements and who he's compatible with, what he's compatible with, and things he should absolutely, some of his taboos, things he should absolutely not do, and certain types of people and things he should absolutely stay away from. And part of that description thoroughly described me and the elements and attributes that I come with. And so when he got his reading, he was just like, okay, I'm going to stop fighting. Okay. He was like, but I love you so much and I want the best for you, so we can just be friends, right? I was like, yeah, we can be friends, you know, but that aspect of our relationship has to end. And so he's just like, wow, you have a gift, you have power. I support you in going through in your initiation. And so I left the organization and set about my search of trying to get in contact with this priestess in Benin. And I'd sent some emails online, some contact, and things just weren't panning out for me. And in the meantime, there were social events that the organization was still having, and I would still go. And the priest that's over the school, Naba Edita, he came to visit in San Diego. And traditionally, when family comes in town, or a priest or your master comes into town, everyone comes to the house or everyone comes to the temple to greet that particular person from out of town. And that's what I did. I was like, I'm coming to greet him. I was happy he doesn't come to the West Coast often. And I was happy he was there. And I just wanted to serve him. I wanted to make him some food. And I wanted to hear how his travels and his journeys have been. And just wanted to be in his space, right? That's what you do when family comes or master or someone that you respect. And so I came, and I remember, I brought the meal, and I was with the other women, and we were asking them how things were going. And I spent the afternoon, and things were fine. And there was one particular moment, and it was kind of quiet, and he just asked me, he's like, I don't get it. He's like, why did you leave the organization? He's like, they told me you left. Why did you leave? And I said, because I want more. And he just looked at me. And I said about telling him everything that was going on with me. I was telling him about the dreams. I was telling him about how I had this throb in me to learn more. I needed to learn how to access the spirit. I needed to learn how to pray and move energy. I needed to learn how to divine and get knowledge about the future. I needed to learn how to help people on a deeper level than what I currently had access to. And I just wasn't getting that training. And so I felt like the organization gave me a firm foundation, but I needed to graduate to something more. And that was a hard message for me to look at him and give him. But I gave it because I needed to speak my truth. And do you know what he did? He laughed at me. He laughed at me. Oh my gosh. He laughed so hard. I mean, from his belly, y'all. He laughed so hard. And I said, why are you laughing? What? I don't get it. And he's just like, you're so American. I was like, what do you mean? I'm trying to be honest here. He's like, traditionally, when you want to train at a different temple or under another master, you go to your current master, and they will take you to the new master. They will take you to the new trainer, and they will let them know, this is where she is. This is where I worked with her. This is what she's been exposed to. These are the initiations that she's done. This is the level that she's at. And they deliver you to your master. And I was just like, really? And he said, yeah. And he's like, so the last thing you should have did was leave. He's like, if anything, we should take you to Benin. And I was like, can you do that? Really? He's like, let me make some calls. Let me reach out to her. Let me see if she'll receive you into her temple. And he said she's going to do her own readings on you. She's going to check your lineage and check your blood and see if this is something that you're supposed to do. She's not just going to receive anyone. If the divinities say it's okay. And I said, okay. And that was the end of the summer. And I remember him getting back in touch with me later. And he said, come to pilgrimage next year. And this time, when we go to the Benin temple, when we leave, we will drop you off there and your initiation will start. Wow. I couldn't believe it when I got the call. I was so blown away. I was going to go through initiation at a Voodoo temple in Benin. And I was so thankful. But he warned me. He said, your life is going to change. Be ready for the change. And I said, yeah, of course. Yeah. It's already changing, right? I didn't know what to expect. At that particular time, I didn't understand how the universe works, how the divine works, how you can't ask or pull something from existence and expect not to give. And you give first. You don't pull or take first. You give first. And so I didn't understand that concept. But I tell you what, I learned quick. I learned quick. So from the time that he gave me that message, he said, how has life been for you? I said, you know what? Ever since I came back from the first pilgrimage, life has been evolving. He said, yeah, you got a lot of work done. He said, and whatever you asked for, whatever you were chanting, I know it was coming true for you. And when he said that, a light bulb went off. And I was like, wow, I asked to be the highest form of myself. I asked to be a servant of the divine. I asked to be used by the ancestors. I asked to restore dignity to my bloodline. All of these things I asked for. I said, so this is a part of the growth that's necessary to bring about that change. Wow. I just sat there and I was like, at the cost of my marriage, at the cost of breaking up my family. Wow. At the cost of, now being a single mom. Wow. Okay. This is the journey, okay? This is what I have to do. All right, I'm still going to walk. I'm still going to move forward. But wow, I just had to think and reflect on that when he said that. And then I thought, okay. And he said, well, now you're going to be going into initiation, so be prepared for more to happen. And I was like, oh my gosh. Okay. And so leading up to me going into pilgrimage again that next year. So now I had that conversation with him at the end of the summer. So about August, September, me and Naba had that conversation, and he said that she would receive me and I needed to be at the next pilgrimage in January. And immediately September, October, November, sales at my business dropped. I mean, normally the holidays after tourism, after school starts, tourism cuts off, and we normally experience a downtrend. But that particular year, instead of being down 5 or 10% in sales, we were down 20%. 20% month over month. So we're looking at the trends and we're like, okay, we have to do something drastic because we can't stay in business if this trend continues. And I remember my business partner, mind you, my business partner is my ex-husband. My husband at the time, we're going through our divorce. And I remember him saying, well, the holidays, things should pick up. And so our savings was depleting, and things were starting to become dire. We had to move people into our house, rent out a couple rooms to cut back. We had to cut back on certain bonuses. Like, things were just dire. I said, okay. We were thinking the holiday season, Thanksgiving to Christmas, would pick up. We were expecting a spike. Things did not spike. When I say the chart continued to go down 20% month over month, it did. And it got to the point to where I said, I don't think I can go on pilgrimage. I got to stay here. My business is failing. My kids, we have to do something. And I remember my business partner, my now ex-husband. We're in the middle of a separation divorce. And this man, he said, go. You need to go. You have to go. He's like, I have seen you sit up at night and journal and just stare and gaze. I've seen you wake up in night sweats. I've seen you in your evolution, and you can't stay here. You have to move forward. And I remember I had to buy my plane ticket on a credit card, and it wasn't even my credit card. It was somebody else's credit card. My husband's friend had to buy my ticket, and I got there and I had maybe $100 on me to last 3 months. And but I went, and I remember just in the meantime, before I left, me preparing myself. One of the things they said, well, for initiation, you need to be in Africa for 6 months. And I was like, man, I can't do 6 months. And they said, well, you can break it up, but you really need to try to do the full 6 months at one time. And my business partner said, we can afford for you to be gone 3 months. You can do 2 sets of 3, but you can't do the full 6. I said, okay. So I was preparing to be gone for 3 months. I had changed my diet. I had increased my prayer time. I was doing everything I knew to clean and purify myself and set my intention and to get ready for this particular time. And even though everything around me was falling apart and crashing, once I realized I had the support of my family, there was nothing I couldn't do. And so I remember getting on the plane and kissing each one of my children and telling them goodbye, and giving my business partner, my ex-husband, a hug. And he was just like, we're going to have to suffer. We're going to be suffering while you're gone. He was just like, don't make our suffering in vain. He was just like, go kick ass. Excuse my French, but those are his words. And I just remember he's like, make us proud, go kick ass. And I said, okay. And I had no idea what I was about to embark in, but I went. And I remember landing in West Africa, and pilgrimage started. And I started getting the messages from back home that the business still wasn't doing good. It was getting worse again. And to my entrepreneur business owners out there, you guys know what a downtrend of 20% month over month will do. You will be out of business. You need to make drastic changes or you will be out of business. And this had happened from September. And I was like, you know what? We are doing everything to change the trend, and nothing is giving up. We are consistently down 20% over month. And I was like, you know what? This is totally out of my control. This has to happen. This is cosmic. This is divine. But I have to move forward. And so I remember still getting those messages, and it was to the point to where we had to give up our home. It was either give up the business and close our doors, or give up our home. And at that point, I was faced with moving forward in my dream while my children were homeless, or coming back and being a mom and picking up the pieces of my family. And that was a hard time for me. That was a really, really hard time. my oldest children were working at the restaurant. At that point, we were barely making payroll. Everyone that was related to the business that was, family was working for free. Despite what bills they had, they were working for free. We couldn't afford to pay them. We barely had enough money to pay for the supplies and pay the payroll of the people, the other people that weren't related to us. We had no money for a living. I mean, we should have just closed our doors. But my business partner said, I'm going to keep fighting as long as I can. And I told him, I'm coming back. I can't do this. Where are you guys going to go? He's like, I don't know. He's like, there's a homeless shelter, St. Vincent de Paul. We may go there. I was like, no. I said, go to the school. I was like, call the temple and see if you can stay there. I was with Naba at the time. And I'm like, Naba, my family is homeless. I got to go back. And he's like, well, let's consult ancestors. Let's do a divination. Let's see what you should do. And I remember the ancestral call that they did. And I remember those words so clearly that came out. The words to me were, for once, live. It was something like, shed your colonial ways and be free. For once, move forward. They also told me that you're our child and we won't let you fail. If you fail and you're coming after traditions, that means traditions fail. And we won't let you fail. You will succeed. And when he told me that, I knew I had to keep going because it was bigger than me. And because it was bigger than me, and I was being the example, I had to have courage and keep walking forward because the energy was already in motion. I had to do it. It would cause more chaos for me to stop and go back than to keep moving forward in the rhythm. And they were supporting me. I was scared, but I kept moving forward. And so we did lose our home. My car was repossessed. I lost credit cards, everything was kind of destroyed in that particular time. We ended up moving into the temple. I say we, meaning my family. Mind you, this is my children I left behind. I left them in the care of my husband, but we're separated, going through a divorce. And this man is taking care of my children while I'm in Africa, and our business is failing. This man has a heart of gold. I mean, anyone else, any other man I know, they would have packed up their bags and said, you know what? I'm taking these kids to your mom's house and I'm going back home. You don't want me. We're not going to be together. It's not favorable for us to be together. You're going to Africa for 3 months. Good luck on your life, on your next chapter. He didn't do that. Oh my gosh. I owe so much to him. It's important to have a good support system, a good team standing by you. And him and my children, man, they held it down while I was in initiation. And so with that ancestral call, I had the courage to move forward. So, as promised, pilgrimage commenced. All the pilgrims were flying in from everywhere: UK, Canada, America. Everyone's coming to West Africa. And so we set about the pilgrimage. I had been on the pilgrimage 1 year before, and that was the year I did all the spiritual work. And I came back just 1 year later and was now embarking on my priestess journey. And yeah, that's how it started. So I will end here. We'll pick up with another story of what initiation was like in our next podcast. Thank you for listening. This has been the Divine Feminine podcast, led by your host, Priestess Haneera Abunu. Thank you. Come join me in April in San Diego for a spiritual retreat weekend. Also, in July, we're going to Africa for our spiritual awakening. Get more information on both events at eventbrite.com. To schedule a spiritual reading or life coaching session, please